Life, it comes at us like a train with all its ups and downs, its pains and its joys. How do we deal with it? How do we process it? How how do what we learn from life, and especially what we teach life back in return, makes all of the difference. Welcome to Life Talks. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Life Talks. If you are thinking you're seeing double, well, you kind of are, because I have with me my sister again, Dr. Natasha Wright. And when she was on before, she was still completing the process of her doctoral program. And since then, sister has gotten her cap and gown, and it is official. And I'm making a big deal because these are years of research and writing and money, and so it does not come easy. It's not something that you can use Photoshop and just get yourself a certificate for. So congratulations, Dr. Wright.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I'm so excited. You've broken glass ceilings, and I think that's the thing that I'm just so proud of, because I remember when we had the conversation in Connecticut, and I cannot believe so much time has gone by already, when you said, I'm going to do this doctoral program, and here you are. So for all my brown and dark girls out there, here you go. All right, here you go. This is your Barbie. Here you go.
Ah!
So, hallelujah. So let me just introduce her officially. So uplift, empower, encourage. These are the words. These three words define Dr. Natasha's life mission. Dr. Natasha's greatest desire is to help you become the best version of yourself, because life can sometimes catch us off guard. In life's toughest moments, having someone to say it's okay, you can succeed and overcome can make a huge difference. Dr. Natasha has over 12 years of experience in working with diverse populations. She brings evidence-based interventions with warmth, humor, confidence, and hope to every season. Dr. Natasha is committed to helping you, if you become her client, but even through these mediums also. So she's committed to helping you make lasting change and reach your highest potential. She's a graduate of Fordham University, majoring in clinical social work. She received an undergraduate degree from the University of Bridgeport in human services, and she also holds a doctorate in human and social services, specializing in Black women and mental health. Dr. Natasha enjoys traveling, reading, and spending time with her two amazing sons. So she deals with issues such as anger management, anxiety, bipolar disorder, codependency, coping skills, depression, divorce, school issues, stress, trauma, PTSD, women's issues, and a whole host of other issues. Her treatment approach is Christian counseling, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, family system, and so forth. And it's just a whole host of other techniques that she uses. One of her websites, and we can give both, is hearttoheartcounsel.com. You should see it coming up on your screen. And what is the other website, Tosh?
NatashaNWright.com. That's all things Natasha.
All right, because she's also a minister. She is an entrepreneur. She is all things, and we give honor and glory to God, who has poured all things into her. And so, welcome back, my sister. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for the invite, girl. You said a whole lot.
I did. I was like, breathe. You know, it's so interesting. Sometimes when I speak, right, and they're reading the the bio for the introduction of speaker, I cringe because it's a lot, right? And so sometimes I sit down and I'm saying, whoo, it's long. And then the Holy Spirit says, whoo, I've brought you through
Mm.
it of training and I have equipped you with quite a bit. So it's a long list, but it shows how I am equipping you to serve. So sometimes I have to just sit and soak it in and say, okay, thank you, Jesus. So soak in it, sister, soak in it.
Okay.
So I asked you for us to have another dialogue because last we were talking COVID-19.
Oh, yes.
And, at that point, I was like, okay, that's the stuff we're dealing with, girl. And then we had Breonna Taylor. We had Mr. George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, COVID-19 felt like it was a kindergarten class that we had gone through. And you and I had talked about trauma and grief and all of that. And it just was like a tsunami hit.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
it's been a couple of weeks, and I was kind of debating, do I want to go into that realm because everyone has something to say, which is good. There are many voices out there, and I just didn't know if me adding something else would be just like a little pebble, in a great
mm-hmm.
ocean. But I just felt the responsibility for the niche that we have to bring some to bring that dialogue so we can
Yeah.
talk about it. We're not trying to solve any problems. We're just trying to say, these are ways that can help. And you are one of the experts that I trust in this field. And so I wanted to ask you to come back on. So I saw you posted on Instagram the impacts of racism on mental health. And this is what we're going to talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. And as you said, this can be a conversation with just about anyone because there are so many opinions of what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, laws they want changed. But the crux of it is that everything that we see in the news that comes up on our timelines and social media, it plays a part on our mental health. Right. And so I think this is a very much needed conversation, especially how racism plays a part on our mental health. So I am delighted to just have this conversation with you.
Thank you. And we know it's going to be tough and a hard one. But you know what? Like my doctor tells me, on the other side of pain and hard experiences is relief. And I know that we need relief. So mental health. What is mental health? What is somebody looking and saying, okay, well, what does she mean mental health? What is she talking about? What does racism have to do with my mental health? Can you break that down to us?
So what does racism have to do with mental health? Mental health is our thoughts and our feelings, emotions, and it's health. So we want it to be healthy. So mental health, I want to give you the good old
definition.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Because I think it's so important. Because we know what physical health is, right? We definitely, and at times we use it to interchange with emotional health. Mm-hmm. But what mental health is, it's a person's, male, female, boy, girl, condition in regards to their psychological and emotional well-being. Okay. So it encompasses a lot. And as we're watching racism happen, especially amongst the Black and brown communities. So we have different stressors, triggers that affect our mental health that other races don't necessarily have to deal with. Mm-hmm. And so each person makeup is different. And so what will trigger me and my mental health may not trigger you.
Right.
But because we as a whole in the Black and brown communities, racism hits home, it hits hard, because we've been fighting this for decades.
Mm-hmm.
To be exact,
400
in 1 year.
Yes.
So let's be clear. Like you said, these are tough conversations, and you nor I was born back in 1619, right? However, but the effects of it from passed down from generation to generation to generation, our lineage. Studies show that racism, slavery, abuse, the physical, psychological abuse, that changes our DNA. Mm-hmm. So we get into a deeper conversation. So while we weren't born 400 years ago, we carry that.
Right.
So when we're talking about being triggered, you mentioned Breonna Taylor. We have Mr. George Floyd. Mm-hmm. We have, as of late, my goodness, Rashad Brooks.
Yes.
We have Aubrey Maud. We have so many names in such a short amount of time.
Right.
So I want to take a moment and just let's look at that as we talk about how racism affects mental health. So, and I want to get my dates right, so I'm going to be switching back and forth. No problem. Aubrey Maud happened in February. We were then in the midst of COVID, mm-hmm. right? So here we go. February, Aubrey Maud was killed, gunned down, by two white, now three gentlemen. And then we didn't really hear a lot.
Right.
We go into COVID, our immune system, not only our immune system, but then we have the stress of COVID.
Right. Through the roof.
Yep. So we're fighting COVID. We are going through so many changes, mm-hmm. physical changes, psychological changes. We have communal changes. Right. We're all traumatized. We're shut in, quarantine.
Financial changes, job loss, the whole hoopla.
Right. Yeah. We have death by the thousands of this unknown pathogen.
Daily.
Oh, absolutely. We have new ways of living. So we already discussed how we were thrown in to this cycle of panic. Mm-hmm. We were very hyper vigilant. You can't really go outside. Things were closing down. You were at work one day and then you weren't at work anymore. Right. And we still have not resumed what we were going to do. So here we are. We have that. And then we have Breonna Taylor. She happened in March. Mm-hmm. But we're still at the height of COVID. We really don't hear a lot. And then all of a sudden, Aubrey Maud pops up again, right? So it took about 2 months, but he resurfaces.
Right.
His story resurfaces. No one has been arrested just yet. So now we're talking about his killers and everything. Breonna is thrown in there. And it's like, well, we're looking at him, but now her too. What about her? She was killed in her home. By police officers, shot at least 8 times. Mm-hmm. We're still dealing with COVID.
Right.
But then we have Aubrey. So we have the news. It's cycling. Things are happening. Right. Killers are now arrested. We're going through all of this. And then George Floyd happens.
And can I just interject? When you're talking about the news, and let's not forget that because we're contained in our homes because of the stay-at-home orders, we don't have breaks from each news posting. We don't have, every day it's like bam, 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 bam of news. And there's no sports, there's nothing, there's no distractions. And so in a day's time, there's news and the ever-changing COVID issues every hour. It's something different. Plus trying to process it, plus finding loved ones, plus we're hearing this one has it, that one has it, this one friend died, this one. And we go to sleep with our minds not resting.
Absolutely.
And then here we go.
It's right. So every day, and I'm going to get into that because that's the physiological response. Mm-hmm. We're heightened. So we have all of this happens. I said, and then here we go. George Floyd's death, execution, murder goes viral.
Live.
a 17-year-old baby, because that's what I want to call her, records it. It goes viral. And not only was it viral, it was like a visceral experience.
Right, right.
For self-care purposes, I could not watch the video.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I did not
I
watch
had
it.
to choose not to. I saw clips of it, and I knew where my mental space was, and so I said, for me, I know where it's going to send me.
Yeah.
I'll read, but
yes,
and let the eyes bring it in. Yeah.
I watched Aubrey's Moths and was like, oh no. I read and remember, Aubrey's happened, Brianna's happened, and I'm reading. And like I said, I watch Moths. So I was like, oh boy, okay. So when George came up, I was like, no, Tasha, let's read. And so even through the reading, because the news cycles are literally cycling. They're, so the news stations, they're running it. Every time they get a new development, there's a new headline. There's this happened. So we were getting moment by moment. And so think about that, one on top of the other, on top of the other. In relation to mental health, we haven't been over Trayvon Martin.
Yes.
Tamar Rice.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten over any of these.
Yeah, both.
And so, right, we haven't gotten over any of these. And all of a sudden, now things are going viral. We're seeing our brown and black brothers and sisters getting killed on camera. Some people I know chose not to watch it. However, but through scrolling or through a news clip, stumbled upon it and watched it by accident.
Right.
So we have that compounded trauma. Aside from the personal things that we may be dealing with, now we have this communal thing. So now we protest.
Right.
Protests turn into riots. I literally woke up one day and America was on fire.
Right.
Literally.
Right. Right.
Literally, I was like, oh, no, we're burning.
Yeah. It was like Rodney King all again.
Right.
Yeah, that's the first thing in my mind went right back to Rodney King, and I said, "Oh my gosh, we're burning down again."
We are burning, and here we are. You can tell the frustration, the angst, the anger, the disgust coming because literally we're burning. We're on. America's on fire. What do we do with these emotions? Because all of this stems from our mental health. We've had so much of this. I need an outlet.
Right.
And then the outlet becomes destructive.
Right.
I know in no way, shape, form, or fashion
condone
support the riots.
Yeah.
But I will say I understand them.
Correct.
I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah.
That I don't support them. I don't condone them, but I understand them.
Right.
They come from a place of we've marched, we've met, we've talked, we've rallied, we went to Congress, we talked some more, we wrote letters, we showed up at the ballots, we've done these things, and you still kill us.
Right.
Broad daylight.
Yeah.
I understand it.
Yeah.
So the effects that racism can have on mental health, one, we already know anxiety and depression are the two that come up, that rise to the top. That anxiety, let's talk as parents of Black and brown children. These things are happening in broad daylight.
Right.
So dare we send them out after the street lights come on?
Correct.
Right? Dare they go somewhere and not answer a text or a phone call?
Now, can we just like get real personal? Because you have two Black boys. I have a Black son.
I do.
And two Black girls, well, of course. And, where we live is not behind a mountain.
Yep.
Right? And my son is 19. Your boys are, what are their ages?
19, 12.
Okay. And I I tell him, and I've tried not to project the level of anxiety that I have every time he leaves the house. But I
Mm-hmm.
found, and this is just mama talk now, right? I found myself almost barricading him in the house. So anything that had to be done, I was going out to do it so that he
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to leave the house. And even having the conversations, or if he left the house, all of a sudden I'm on my knees and I'm texting him every minute and I'm calling him every second and I'm timing how long it should take him to go to the gas station or Walmart and get back home. And if any
Mm-hmm.
of that time wavers, psh, my
Yeah.
brain is already thinking, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. So it caused more anxiety on him because here is mama like, why can't leave the house? And I mean, he understood it,
Absolutely.
but the protective, fearful, you know what I mean? Those,
Yeah.
that trauma
Yes.
coming up. I don't want to be one of those moms. Bottom line,
This
I
right.
don't
This
want
is
to
that
fall for.
vicarious. This is that vicarious trauma.
Yeah.
You can. So I didn't watch George Floyd's video. However, but you can, from everyone, you can tell that he cried out for his mama, right? And in that, we're mothers.
Right.
So what does that? I didn't watch it, but intrinsically, I'm like, oh,
We
I
felt
felt
it.
it from reading.
Exactly.
And as mothers, I'm like, so where are you going? What time? Let me take you. I'll go. No worries. I'll go get
Mm-hmm.
it. And then reiterating to adult sons, because that's what they're man child,
Right, right,
that's what I want to call them, how to interact if
right.
they encounter the police, even if they're innocent. So that brings up another good point that you made, worry.
Yeah.
So we have the anxiety, we have the worry as parents.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying we mention our boys, but we still, there's girls out here
Right.
getting killed for no.
Exactly.
Sandra Bland, let's say her name,
Right,
right? So
right.
we have, there's women and girls out here getting killed for no reason.
For no reason.
So the black and brown community, so the depression, then we have the stress of it all. Just the stress of watching the news and seeing what's happening in these not yet United States
Mm-hmm.
around race and
Mm-hmm.
racism and the superiority ideology of one race over another,
Mm-hmm.
and the mistrust and distrust.
Right.
So let's look at distrust as another factor that plays on our mental health.
Right.
So now we have this distrust of police and officials. Those that have took an oath to protect and
Mm-hmm.
serve are now killing us.
Right. And getting away with it.
And, and I think
There's no
that's
accountability
the
there.
part.
You're getting, and
There's
they have
no
been
ability.
right. And it's not like they're now getting away with it. They have been. We have seen them get away. So it's almost like in our mind, like we know how this one is going to end. It's
Yep.
going to go unresolved, and I'm going to have to grieve and mourn this because nothing's going to come out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, and that kind of letdown,
Mm-hmm.
deflated hopelessness,
Mm.
that's more triggers that play on our mental health. What's the use of me writing another letter? What's the use of another peaceful protest? What's the use of me calling the chief or the mayor or having a talk with city officials? You didn't hear me before, so watch me go do this.
Right.
So we have these things, these feelings that we have, and righteously so. I'm not saying that any of the angst, frustration, anger, hopeless, I'm not saying that any of that is invalid.
Mm-hmm.
However, where do we put these things
Right.
in a productive way?
Right.
Because the feelings and emotions are real.
Right.
The impact of racism on Black and brown communities is real. The impact of our mental health, not being able to sleep at night. We're talking about even, so it's sleep, disturbance of sleep patterns. Then we're eating habits.
Right.
Loneliness.
Right.
So here we are in COVID, we're already isolated.
Right.
And then you have these layers of racism that knocks on our phone, they're on our timeline, knocking on our TV. We see it all over. And if you are in a community, if you're a Black or brown person that's in a community, and you're in a community that doesn't quite look like you, you're one Black or brown person, and you're trying to tell this to your white counterparts, allies or not,
right.
There is a lonely feeling like, what am I doing?
Right.
So it's like, do we educate our white counterparts? What happens when they choose not to hear us?
But do we have the energy to educate? When I can't get the energy to process this stuff myself because of what I'm tired.
That's what it is. So you have this loneliness, like you feel disconnected. So it's a lot to bear. And if you don't have healthy coping skills,
right,
then let's start there. If you are vacant,
COVID or this, we didn't have it.
Right. Remember, we're still in a global pandemic.
Yeah.
So if you don't have healthy coping skills, or you're vacant, so because we can have coping skills, they can just be unhealthy or dysfunctional. But if you don't have healthy coping skills to begin with, you'll bottom out.
Right.
You'll pick up dysfunctional habits to get you through the day.
Right.
So all of this is real. Another impact is going into survival mode. When we go into survival mode, our body becomes hypervigilant and it's more intense. Our heart is pumping, our brain is always going. We can't necessarily be at rest. So I don't know about you, but lately, even watching the news, I wake up in the morning, I say my prayers, I do my devotional, and I'm like, before I can even get through, CNN is popping up on my phone, and I'm like, oh God, what now?
Yeah.
And it's another layer of something, and especially within the last probably 6 to 8 weeks, either it's another Black or brown brother or sister of mine being killed, being shot, something drastic has happened. It's like, what now?
Right.
So we go to survival mode. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of the turnouts and a lot of the riots. People are now in survival mode. You're not trying to talk to me.
Right.
Because if you encounter a police, automatically we go into survival mode. How am I going to escape this moment alive?
Right. And
so
that fight or flight has turned to fight.
Right. Fight. Because even if I try to flight, they're shooting people in the back.
Right.
So let's be clear here about what's happening.
Yeah.
So does it impact mental health? Absolutely.
Before COVID had taken a backseat in the car, we had seen reports coming out that the next great pandemic after COVID was going to be mental health.
Okay.
And the call for social workers and, counselors and so forth, because the trauma and the recovery from that was another tsunami. And so we were already being talked about that because, you can't flip a light on and just say, okay, COVID's done, everybody go back to normal, when you've had people who haven't even could not bury their loved ones, having to deal with body, physical ramifications from COVID, and then seeing all of this, we already was set up for a mental health chaos, and now this. So how do you even start going through the layers of which layer to go through first?
So here's what I do in my practice. I let the client choose.
Okay.
So I'm very client centered.
Mm-hmm.
So at the start of the session, I'm going to ask, how would you like to spend your time today? What's on your agenda?
Mm-hmm.
I don't approach therapy with my agenda.
Right.
And if COVID is on the list, then we'll go through COVID.
Mm-hmm.
If it's racism, microaggressions, anxiety due to watching some of these things, then we go with that. If it's work is calling and I got to go back to work next week and I'm not ready, my anxiety is high, then we go through that. What I do is I let them tell me where they want to go.
Right.
And so I don't necessarily choose which one. Sometimes they're all intertwined. And we begin to work on healthy coping skills to get through.
So do you think that that's the foundational place for us to be thinking about, just coping skills, management?
Are we talking about coping in response to the mental health piece? Or are we asking the question of how are we going to cope with racism?
The mental health piece.
The
because
mental health.
Different things right there, because there ain't no management for racism.
Oh, God. The mental health piece, yes. How do we cope? Let's talk about that, because we have to manage it.
Right.
One of the symptoms that we just talked about in relationship to the impact of racism on mental health is the powerlessness, that hopelessness. You know, we protested, we marched, we rallied, we've written letters, we spoke at Congress, we called our local council people and aldermen. We did all of that. And so now we have these riots, you know, that are spinning out of control, where we have the United States on fire. That's that powerlessness that says, you didn't hear me before.
Right.
But you're going to hear me now.
Learn today. That's the term.
You're going to learn today.
Yeah.
Folks are burning things to a crisp. So to look at that, we need to learn where to put all this emotion and energy. Because I dare not say that we should deny it, right, and say that it doesn't affect us. That, in the first place, would be faulty thinking.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Life Talks. I hope that you were inspired and that you have felt a rejuvenation in your life. And I hope that what you are saying right now is that the answer that you are given to what life has thrown at you is that I am still here. Email us with your Life Talk ideas at mylifetalkstv@gmail.com. See you next time.